Business feels harder than it should. You're doing everything right, creating content, showing up consistently, working non-stop, and yet it still feels like your business takes more energy than it gives back. For most founders, this isn't a motivation problem. It's not a consistency problem either. It's a system problem. And this is where personal brand either becomes your biggest advantage or the thing that slowly burns you out. Today, I'm joined by Caleb Ralston. He spent years building brands behind the scenes for some of the biggest names in the industry before walking away to build his own. What I learned is something most people get wrong. They build personal brands that add pressure to their business instead of removing it. In this episode, we break down how personal branding actually works as a long-term system, why chasing virality is the wrong goal for most business owners, and how to build a personal brand that supports your business for years, not something that burns you out in a few months. Let's get started. You left a very successful career path working with some of the biggest brands in social media. You built a strong reputation and a name for yourself in the industry. And it feels like you could have stayed there forever, and yet you decided to leave all that behind and start
Yeah,
from scratch, building your own personal brand. That's a bold move. So what drove you to do that?
a lot of different things. One, I try to, at a high level, I can just say, I try to make all my decisions based on my values, right? And if things line up with my values, then I make decisions based off of that. So that's number one. Number two is just, I started getting a lot of crazy opportunities that were coming into my DMs, my email, text messages from a lot of crazy characters that wanted to work together or do something. And I just kept turning it all down. And I realized something that I got from Gary, who is one of the best humans, arguably the best human I've ever worked for. He says this thing, and it just I'm sure everybody who consumes his content, it really hits home for them, which is like optimizing life for avoiding regret. And I just was thinking, man, if I'm an old man sitting on my deathbed, I'm going to look back and be like, why did I never try? Why did I never see what would happen if I went out on my own and did my own thing? And so it was really just that. I was just trying to make sure that old man Caleb would be proud of young man Caleb.
Perfect. Perfect. And before you actually made that decision, did you have any fears that this move might not work? And if so, what were you most afraid of?
Yeah, I think anybody doing anything they've never done before is going to be scared, or should be. And if you're not, I guess that could be a good thing. I could also see it being a very negative thing. I think the fear is healthy. But yeah, I was terrified. I had no idea whether it was going to work or not. I did not think that in the first year of making content, anybody would want to listen to me or give a shit about what I have to say. Um,
You're wrong, obviously.
Thank you. It's funny because um, I hope this comes through the correct tone and a humble tone, like I mean it. But I've been getting a lot of feedback like, wow, you're really good at articulating your thoughts and explaining complex things in a simple way. And the truth of the matter is that I have always thought of myself as not articulate, not good at communicating, being very poor at that. And I always said things like, no, I'm not good at talking or communicating or sharing my thoughts. That's why I'm behind the camera, not in front of it. And I would always say these things like, I'll always be behind, I'll never make content. That's for the people that I work for, not for me. And yeah, so I think I was a little concerned about that, but I just had this belief that and I've kind of always been this way because every role, every job that I've taken before going out on my own, I was technically not qualified for. I've always taken on bigger things than I should, for sure. And so I think I was also kind of trained at that point to just know that it's like, yeah, I'm probably in over my head, and that's okay. There's a project I'm
Amazing.
working on right now that I'm
Hmm.
like, "No, I'm probably in over my head on this. This is probably way too much." But that's just how I roll.
Yet you're doing it. Amazing. So looking at it from today's perspective, what's your mission now? Why do you care so deeply about personal brand? And why do you believe it's so important?
Honestly, I'm disgusted by the way that a lot of people approach it. I think a lot of people are unbelievably selfish and are doing it just for what's in it for them, and it comes through very loud in the content. And so I think for me, it comes from a place of I genuinely want to see the industry change. I want to see how people do this change and be done differently. Whether I work with people or not, I'd like that. And that's why we put out the free content at the level of value and depth that we try to, is because, yeah, I'm trying to grow a business and I want to make some money with that, but I'm trying to really actually change the way that this whole space operates. And you can't do that just by, doing things behind a paywall. You got to do both.
And why personal brand? Why is it such a deep thing for you to promote that message of building the right personal brand for people?
I can give you two answers. One is because I just know that it is the most effective way to communicate and connect with customers nowadays. I mean, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they care more about what a CEO or founder of a business believes on a political topic than anything. And so, like the amount that people are making their decisions on purchasing based on the human behind the brand is just, it's never been bigger. So there's that. The other answer is that for whatever reason, probably due to chemicals and circumstance, and please, again, hear this through a humble tone. I'm going to sound like I'm like bragging about myself, but I'm a wildly empathetic human. I notice every little, like in a meeting with an employee, a coworker, or a boss, if a tiny little shift happens in a mannerism, their tone, I notice it immediately. And it becomes like glaringly obvious to me. And I'll leave a room and ask somebody else, did you notice that? And nobody else notices it, right? And I pick up on these things. And I've been this way since I was a little kid. And I think I quickly realized at an early age, thankfully, because Sean Cannell introduced me to Gary Vaynerchuk and I read his book,
Yeah.
that personal branding was going to be something that was really important. But the big issue that I was noticing, and I couldn't have put words to it back when I was like 18 or 19, but what I was noticing under the surface is that all these people were building these caricatures of who they thought they needed to be, not who they actually were. And I just felt like that was a ticking time bomb. And at some point they were not going to be able to sustain it. Right. And we're talking like I'm going back to like 2012, 2013, right? Long time ago. Most people that are making content now weren't even consuming YouTube back then. Right.
Sure.
And so I think that the interesting thing that I noticed is there is going to be an evolution that's going to occur in this industry where a lot of people are going to end up having a very, very tough time sticking with the brand they have created. And so that began my philosophy around not optimizing to be the character you think will get the most views or whatever, but actually better delivery and showing up in your content better. All that is just figuring out what are the things that keep you from being fully you in the content and stripping them away. It's less about doing more and it's more about doing less.
When we're going to talk about it. Let's talk to the business owner. Should every business owner build a personal brand, in your opinion?
No.
So, who is it actually for?
Anyone who can articulate a desired outcome they have and can show that building their personal brand is the gateway towards getting there. A great example that I give, if I am let's say a security guard at a mall right now, and I have the ambition of getting into executive protection, right? EP. This is typically when you're a bodyguard for a celebrity, a high net worth individual, somebody who's important, a politician, whatever. If I'm wanting to go from being a security guard at my local mall, maybe it's a nice mall, to being an EP character, do you think me being really well known is going to make me more valuable or less valuable to my potential boss? Less valuable, right? Like the more well known a bodyguard is, the less inconspicuous they are, right? So the
Right.
less they're not as good at their job. And so there are desired outcomes out there that people have articulated that it would be antithetical for them to actually start a personal brand. And so it's why I push the brand journey framework so much is I want people to understand, why are you doing this? Because it costs a lot in money, obviously, time, yes, but you're being vulnerable, you're being transparent, you're putting yourself out there. I would encourage nobody to do that if you don't have a reason for doing it.
Interesting. Because, like you said in the beginning of the conversation, you said, I wasn't sure it's for me. I wasn't sure I'm that guy in front of the camera. And a lot of people are saying that, but they might be missing out because it's beneficial for them to create a personal brand. Don't you think so?
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, I recognized, okay, cool. Some people know who I am, but
Hmm.
more people in my industry, more people, more of my ideal customers knowing who I am is going to lead to the business outcomes I want. So it made sense. right? Like I could have done word of mouth or whatever, but I chose to do content. But if I knew that a huge value of mine was to not deal with the negativity that comes with creating content online, well, then I could have built my business differently, right? I don't think
Hmm.
everybody needs to do it. And I think it's something that has been
Interesting.
shilled out by a lot of people because they make money on it, right? They're trying to sell you on their
Hmm.
program on how to start. And trust me, like this year, I'm launching a program or whatever. But you better fucking believe I'm not going to be pushing people into it that shouldn't be doing it.
Let's say I decided that I want to build a personal brand. When is the right time? Is there like a good time or a bad time to start a personal brand for me?
It depends on what your expectations are. I give such annoying answers. I know I'm the worst. There's so much
Hey,
nuance to
man.
everything I said.
Dude,
So
those answers are the most interesting answers.
fair. I think a lot of people going and building a personal brand when they don't have that much expertise. And that's okay. But the mistake is they expect the results that the experts get. The variable on your personal brand is how fucking interesting are you? How great are you? It's not the only thing, obviously. There's a ton of great characters that try to build their personal brand and never grow. But the kid who is taking your favorite business creator scripts and regurgitating them, packaged better, blah, 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 on YouTube or TikTok, they will get views, but they will not build a strong personal brand because they don't have any credibility. Okay. And so I use credibility as it's like the multiplier of your personal brand. The reason, or a big reason, I should say, why I've had success in the first year is not because a bunch of people knew who I was, because they didn't. I had very few followers. What it was is the credibility in my work history that when people find out what I did, that video that you're referring to means 10 times more through the lens of what I have done than me being a random Joe. When it's a random Joe, what does the audience have to do every second of the video without realizing it? Is this worth listening to? Is that
Right,
true? Is that true?
right,
Is that true?
right.
Over and over and over and over. They don't realize it, it's subconscious, but they're literally questioning it. But
Absolutely.
if somebody says, I've won 5 Olympic gold medals on the 200-meter sprint, and then they teach you how they go about training for the sprint, you're gonna take everything they say and be like, "Yep, this is gold." This literally, right? Like, this is exactly correct. Versus a random person that you don't know why you're listening to them teach you how to sprint.
How do I know when I have enough credibility to go out there and start building a brand?
This is a great question. So you don't need credibility to start. You just need to have the right expectations. So what I talk about is there's 2 categories. You have your student and your expert. Experts have a credibility bank, right? These are the statements. Basically, this is all the things on your resume that make you impressive and worth listening to on this specific subject matter. For the students, you have what I call the interest bank. These are the things that you are interested in learning and what your personal brand, if you're the student, is going to be. You're not the expert. You're not teaching us how to do this. You're not doing the thing that we all want to do. You are on the journey of learning that. And so you are our gateway drug. You are our proxy, our guinea pig who is going through the process. You know, if it's like, I've never ran a paid ad in my life, and over the next 365 days, I'm going to try and run a paid campaign that makes me $20,000 in profit or whatever. Okay, cool. I'm going to watch you spend all of your time, money, and effort doing the right things and doing the wrong things, and you're going to make it faster for me to accomplish the same thing that you are accomplishing without
Mhm,
the investment. And
mhm.
that's the strength that a student-based personal brand can have. But again, the key is there are those brands that blow up, but people need to expect less going into that. And if you are the expert, but you're an expert with, it's like you're an expert, you've done a great job at running local marketing campaigns for local brick and mortars, nothing crazy successful, but like you've brought in growth to every company you've worked for. Okay, cool. You A lot of people should listen to you, but are you going to get crazy results? Probably not, right?
I think that the problem for a lot of people is they're not sure who they are, where they are at that spectrum. Like I read some I picked up a few comments on from the video, and people say things like, "I'm torn between knowing I'm the expert or the student. I have credibility, but I feel like I'm boasting when I talk about it." These are actual quotes from the comments. And to be honest with you, I also feel like I'm both expert and student sometimes, and I'm not sure that's ever going to change because the more you develop, the more you realize you still have so much to learn. So how do you know when you cross the line between the student and the expert?
Yeah, it's a good point because the best experts are always students, right? Like, never stop being a student kind of thing. I think,
And you feel like
what?
both. So that's
Yeah.
the
I still have things to learn on personal branding, right? But I have more that I can teach. If I sat down with 100 people, this is gonna sound cocky as shit, but I'm just gonna say it. If I sat
no
down with
problem.
100 random people, I'd be teaching more than I'd be learning, right?
Hmm.
More people would walk away with value from me than I would walk away with nuggets from them.
So is that the framework? Is that the criteria? 100 people? Do you know more than them about what you talk about?
It's really good. I'm gonna think about this more. I don't have a framework right now on this. I'll work on it and figure that out because it's a really good point.
I love the
But
100 people. The 100 people. Do I know more than these 100 people about that? That's a good framework.
yeah, I think it can work. The other thing too that you can look at is like results are binary. Stack results against other people in your space that are talking publicly.
Hmm.
Like if you're entering a space where everyone talks about their, 100 million, everyone loves the word or the term $100 million exit, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
if everybody's talking about their $100 million exit and you had a $10 million exit, that's really impressive. But in that pond, it might not be, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So you have two options. And this is where it gets really interesting. I'm so glad we're going here. The option one is cool. Well, if you really want to stand out, you better have a $200 million exit, right? And this is like the rat race that a lot of characters are on. The other option is you go, I'm not going to jump into that pond. I'm going to go into this pond over here. Neither one is right or wrong. Neither one is better or worse. There's just two options. You can either
Hmm.
try to get better and be a big fish in an even bigger pond, or maybe
Mhm.
you're already a big fish just in a different pond.
So choose your identity then.
You don't see me going around trying to talk about building businesses.
Right.
You don't see me taking on the subject matter that people that I have worked for in the past talk about because I'm
Mhm.
not going to compete in that pond. I never
Mhm.
want to be in that pond,
Hmm.
right?
Interesting.
I got my own pond over here that I'm in, and I'm good with it, right? I'm not the character that sees somebody did 100, so I have to do 200.
Very cool. So for the 99% of people who get 0 results in the first year and are surrounded by creators who seem to be growing much faster like you, what can help someone like that stay grounded and keep going without losing their confidence even when results stall for them?
That same way of thinking would be wildly stupid if we were talking about income. Oh man, I see people win the lottery all the time, right? Like the people that
Interesting.
blow up on social that have no experience. Because me, for example, sure, I'm in my first year of building my personal brand, but I had been doing it for others for 16 fucking years before that, right? I had a lot of experience. So I'm an unfair comparison. And everybody you're comparing yourself to is unfair because you don't have the context. You don't know. You don't know how much money they spent on contractors, consultants, teams. Like there's all these different variables. And so a big thing that I try to push, and I haven't hit it from this angle as much yet, but like I talk a lot about looking outside your niche for ideas and stuff like that. I also think if you spend all your time looking at your competitors, like you're giving more attention to your competitors than your customers. So that's kind of your high level cop out answer. Here's your really tactical answer. You need to stop doing the same shit. 99% of people that don't get any results in the first year are the same fuckers that are posting the same shit that they did on day 10 on day 310 and being like, why am I not getting it? You haven't tried shit. Like, people need to realize that it's like, sure, it's probably not going to work the first fucking time. A lot of people, when they try to lose weight, the first training program or first diet they do doesn't work the first time, right? Like, we need to be open to trying new shit. What people like to default to, I literally was just talking to somebody about this. They've grown to like 180,000 subscribers on YouTube and they're killing it. and all their other platforms are tiny. And I was like, why? They're like, LinkedIn doesn't work for me. Instagram doesn't work for me. I was like, how many different things did we try? And he was like, oh, definitely not enough. I was like, yeah, we're out here just trying one thing and being like, oh, it's not for me. Is that how you run your business? That'd be absurd.
Right.
One campaign, one sales campaign, one marketing campaign didn't work.
Mhm.
Marketing's not for me. That's fucking dumb, right? But that's how we treat these platforms, right? And our personal brands. And so what I would encourage people is the thing that I privately tell people a lot is if you're starting your personal brand, expect nothing meaningful to happen off the back of it for 36 months.
Wow.
Go 3 years.
Wow.
Go 3 years without something happening, and then let's talk, right? The
That's hard.
problem is everybody's looking at the one-off creator who blows the fuck up, and they're not looking at the millions of other people, right? And so I just think expectations is a big one that I talk a lot about. I'm gonna hammer on a lot more this year. People just their expectations are fucked. They're completely wrong.
Let's talk about another angle of this. You talked about the unfair advantage. So I know you often say that quality is subjective, but it's hard to ignore how polished and high-end your videos look right from the start. And I remember one of your early videos, I think the second one with the Harley and then the airplane. And, it honestly felt like a Netflix production. And I'll be honest, for me, and I think for many business owners at the beginning of their personal brand journey, that can be feel a little bit intimidating.
Oh,
Did you
yeah.
ever worry that this kind of production would set an unrealistic standard for others, and how would you recommend starting today without feeling less than in the comparison we talked about if you can't match that level yet?
The thing that I talk about a lot for people that are starting and people that are really advanced is sustainability. And for me, knowing that I had been in video for 16 years, I wasn't gonna be proud of videos that I felt like looked like shit, right? My subjective definition of shit, to be clear, but I need to be
Sure.
proud of them, right? It's one of the reasons why we go so deep in all of these videos too. They're not like a 13. You'll see this next year more, 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute videos that are one specific thing, and that's it. But for the first year, I needed to be ridiculously proud of every video we put out in order to continue to wanna make more videos. And so that was it. I had been in the production world for a very long time. I had a standard in my head, and if I would have been recording, webcam videos, that wouldn't have worked for me. I wouldn't have been proud, I wouldn't have stuck with it. And so what you see, like, we released a podcast last week where my content director, Trevor, and I talk about what we focused on. And the
Mhm.
two big things are sustainability for Caleb and iteration for our process. And like that's the big thing. So that's why I did it. I don't think anybody needs to do that. I think you could absolutely get away with a much simpler setup. You don't need to buy all the fancy lights. I've probably invested 60 grand into equipment. I don't recommend most people do that. I'm doing it because it brings me joy.
Sure. You come from that field.
Exactly.
You mentioned the three levers for standing out, but you focus mostly
Yes.
on one, the contrarian belief. And to me,
Yes.
the idea of contrarian belief feels bigger than just content. It feels like a business principle. Can you tell me why do you think that is the most important lever and explain how to apply it practically?
Yeah. I think there was a meme that went around years ago on Facebook, back when Facebook was like cool. And it was a bunch of penguins in the Arctic sitting. And amidst all these penguins is this random big polar bear.
Hmm.
Just standing up above all the penguins. And where does your eye immediately go? The polar bear.
Sure.
At a high level, it's kind of like I'm a metalhead. I like a little bit more of like the goth scene. Okay. So I'm gonna describe a scenario, but know that I'm describing me. Um, in a lot of schools, I don't know how it is now, but when I was a kid, not a lot of kids dressed with like black eyeliner, spikes around their neck, and all black skinny jeans, like all that. The flat iron hair over the bangs, the craziness. And so when somebody would walk into the cafeteria looking like that, they caught a lot more attention, right? Being different than other humans has, since I know, always been a way that draws more attention. More people look at you, right? And so, yeah, that's really it. It's very, very simple. People just need to look at what is everybody doing in their space and how can I do it differently. I am not I don't have the credibility to speak to it from a business principle
Mhm.
level, although I do agree
Well,
that it
I
works there.
really interpreted when I did the exercise that you showed in your workbook how to do. It really opened up like my eyes for not just content but products, business models. It helped me see so many things beyond just how to create the content. This is why
That's
I
what a
wanted to
lot
know.
of what I teach is. I
Yeah,
just don't have the credibility to categorize it under business.
right,
I just
right.
categorize it under what I have credibility to speak to, if that
I
makes sense.
appreciate it. I understand.
But but yeah, that's the way to stand out. You need to do that. And I can give you millions of examples of brands and personal brands that have done this with great success. It's
Hmm.
it's the thing because what it ends up doing, what people don't realize is if you share a contrarian, not a controversy for controversy's sake, a
Sure.
contrarian belief, if you do that, all you're doing is you are drawing a contrast and building a chasm between your competitors and you. And you're making that difference very clear for the listener, the watcher. And then
Can you
they
give an
determine
example of a contrarian belief? Like, what is your contrarian belief?
that I believe that or founders and entrepreneurs who are trying to build their personal brand to grow their business should do so by optimizing for trust, not virality, right? It's
Mhm, mhm.
it's taking what the majority of the industry has pushed for the last 5, 6 years. And it's like, here's my completely opposite take on this. And it's going to draw people to you, right? I'll give one more example here that isn't a personal brand. Savage Fenty, Rihanna's women's lingerie company, okay? They came onto the scene at a time where women's lingerie was only marketing to one body type.
Hmm,
And Savage
hmm.
Fenty was like, no, women of all shapes and sizes deserve to be able to wear lingerie and feel sexy in their body. And so what did they do? They advertised with every different type of body type. And they were valued at over $1 billion within like 2 years, right? They grew in a fucking supposedly saturated industry and they dominated very quickly. And so I believe that if you look at what everybody is saying or doing in your space that you disagree with at your core, don't fucking make it up. If you truly believe it, that is the thing that you can lean on in your personal brand in order to stand out.
So you talk about the old way versus the new way of building personal brand, and I feel like the what scares most people is the old way, optimizing for views, virality, constant output. Can you talk more about the new way for people who are just starting?
Yeah, the new way is something that the fitness industry figured out a while ago, which is, taking, to use an old school example, Billy Blanks or Jillian Michaels, workout routine and their fitness program, how they eat, and starting that on day one is a terrible strategy.
Hmm.
What I think the new way is figuring out what is my desired outcome, like we talked about earlier, figuring out the brand journey framework, going through that entire framework and really articulating what am I doing this for? Then figuring out, and this is an exercise and a thing that in a cool thing we're doing called Ralston Select that we walk people through, which is like then figuring out the next thing you need to determine is what are your constraints? People build these crazy personal brand plans and these content systems based on what their favorite creator has done. And they don't take into account that their calendar doesn't look like that. Maybe the creator they're optimizing after blocks 2 full fucking days a week for writing and making content. And maybe you're in year 3 of your business and you don't have that luxury, right? Well, what you're building is a prison. And for most people, myself included, what ends up happening is you commit to doing this, but you don't follow through. And so you start ignoring it because it brings anxiety. Every time you log into Instagram and see your competitor post a video, you're like, oh, fuck, I didn't do it. Anxiety builds, which is why when I started, I told Trevor, I was like, we're only doing one YouTube video a month. And if we can get Instagram and LinkedIn content from that, but I don't want I'm not trying to be everywhere all at once. I'm not trying to do a weekly video. I wanted something that I could stick with. And I believe that the 2026, the 2027, the 2028 version of building a personal brand is one that you can sustain, not that one that you become a prisoner to.
Yeah, perfect. Let's build on the distinction between followers and customers. I think it's huge and it's not obvious. So most people assume followers eventually becomes customers. What are they missing and what's the difference between a follower and a customer in your eyes?
When we are single individuals deciding to go out into the dating world to find a partner, I believe that we are looking at the behaviors that they have in the beginning of the dating process. And we are expecting them to be more of that over time, not to do something completely different, right? If they're really funny and sarcastic, on the first couple of dates, we're assuming they're probably going to be like that moving forward. We're really not making the assumption that they're all of a sudden going to be wildly dry and only want to watch documentaries and read, almanacs and newspapers all day. Weird example, but just roll with me here. I believe that the content that you make is going to attract people that want more of what they just saw. And so you want to be very thoughtful around the content that you are making because you need to know that whatever you are making that brings people in, they're going to want more of that, not necessarily your core thing or what you offer. It's why I think it's fucking dumb to be like, I have this high ticket niche offer, but I'm going to talk about the widest topics possible on my Instagram and TikTok to get millions of views because I just
Right.
know by sheer volume of numbers.
Yeah, optimizing for the numbers.
Yeah. And it's like, that just, that seems dumb to me. It seems like a waste of time. And what I will tell you is I've had a lot of these larger brands that took that strategy because they worked with some guru that told them to do that. And they built up millions of followers. And they've come to me and been like, I fucking hate my personal brand. I want to fire my whole media team and I want to stop making content. This
Yeah,
sucks.
or
I
I
hate it.
don't sell.
Right. That, yes. That's a main, like, they want to quit because they're doing all this effort, but their business isn't growing off of it. Right.
Right.
And so it's
Absolutely.
like, fuck, like, why are we doing this to ourselves? And I think it comes down to we've so much attachment around getting 100,000, 500,000, a million views. But I know plenty of people that have less than 20,000 followers that are making over $1 million a year, and they are happy as shit. And they're not talking about dumb shit that they don't care about. They're just nerding out about their expertise, and they love the content that they're making. And so I really think that people need to understand that just because you're getting more views doesn't mean that you're getting more customers. And the 2.0 to this, and we should stop here because I do have to jump, but a lot of people talk about listening to the comment section and doing what your comments are telling you. And I love that, comma, whatever group you optimize for is the group you're going to get more of. And so if you are only optimizing your content around the feedback you get from viewers, you'll get more viewers. If, however, you reorient where you're taking that direction, instead of just viewers, maybe it's viewers who are proven customers or just customers in general. What's their feedback, right? Like if people that are just viewers are saying, you're saying the same shit over and over and over again. This is starting to happen to me. There's a couple of people that in the last couple of videos have been like, I feel like this is kind of a repeat of what you've been saying. But then I have customers that are texting me being like, thank you for this reminder. I started deviating.
Nice.
I'm like, cool. I care about my viewers. I love them to death, but I am trying to build a business. And so if the customers like that I'm hammering the same point from a slightly different angle, then I'm going to keep doing that regardless if the viewers, right? And here's why, because the viewers are typically passively consuming. The customers are taking action. If you're just passively consuming, you don't want to passively consume the same shit over and over again, right? But when I'm learning something, I need to hear it multiple times.
Absolutely. That's a great answer and a great example and a great interview. Caleb Ralston, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity.